Hi, I'm Patrick Anderson.
I'm Liv.
And this is the Mach-E vlog. Normally it's just me sitting here in the chair, but today I thought I would introduce you more to my wife, Liv, and she's going to join me in a lot of the Mach-E videos coming up, especially when we get the car. But today we're actually going to just sort of talk about why we decided to get the Mach-E over other EVs and in general, why we're getting an EV. So let's get started. So if you've been watching the channel and following me on Twitter or on Instagram, you know that our Mach-E is arriving in about 21 days, hopefully by February 21st if nothing goes wrong. So it's getting very close to when we're going to get the Mach-E, and figure today like what we can talk about is like what made us decide to jump in and get the Mach-E.
For me, a big thing was definitely the SUV body style. There wasn't really another SUV EV on the market, and the moment we saw it at the LA Auto Show, it was like, ooh, finally. And to be totally honest, that's where Patrick put down a $500 deposit, so we were able to get in the car. But that body style for me personally is both a preference and almost a necessity. I'm an amputee and I'm a right leg amputee, so I drive cross-legged. So I kind of prefer having the more upright seating, more leg room, stuff like that. And I have an adaptive bike, which takes up a lot of space in the back. So we're hoping that'll fit. We don't know, but we're hoping.
And at the time, the Model Y from Tesla hadn't been released yet. It had been announced. So when it was released, we did go take a test drive of that. And it's we'll put a link to the video above as well as down in the description so you can see what our thoughts were about the Model Y.
Yeah, to be totally honest, at the time, I was also really excited to look at the Kona, the hybrid. Right?
They have a gas version. I don't know if they have a hybrid, but they also have an EV version.
That's right. They have the EV version, but what I learned at the time was that they'd taken their ICE, their internal combustion engine version, and had turned it into an electric vehicle, as opposed to the Mach-E, which was entirely made for this, so entirely designed. And watching Patrick go through all of the Ford webinar stuff and listening to all their stories and stuff and how much detail that they put into this and how much intention there was, it definitely feels like this car was made for what it's doing, as opposed to the Kona, for example. I am also curious about stuff like the one pedal driving, whether that'll be a sort of a benefit accessibly wise.
But we're not sure like how the one pedal driving work for her versus like me. Like it's sort of like I drive normally with the right foot. So because she drives crossover with her left foot, and then my argument is hopefully that the Copilot 360 Active Drive Assist will be beneficial. Hopefully we'll get to use that way more because neither one of us uses cruise control a lot, but maybe in the Mach-E we'll use that a lot more and we'll make it a lot easier for her to drive for long distances.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. And I have to be totally honest, like I've always been a bit too nervous to cruise control, like to lose control of my vehicle. So I'm excited to learn more about the opportunities for Copilot and that kind of stuff and how this can be integrated into a better driving experience.
And to be honest, for me, one of the reasons that I sort of centered in on the Mach-E is because of the name Mustang on it. I know that's a bit controversial. Some people don't like that it has the Mustang name on it, but I've been a Mustang fan since I was born, basically, because my parents owned a 65 Mustang. So I've always liked Mustangs. My brothers have owned Mustangs. I mentioned this in the first video that I did for the channel when I put in the order for the Mach-E, and I'll link to that as well. But the designers, as Liv mentioned in the webinars, they talked about like everything that went into designing the Mach-E, and one of those is that they really wanted it to be Mustang influenced. Now, I'm not expecting it to drive like a two-door V8 Mustang, but the idea that they put a lot of attention into how it handles and giving it a sporty, aggressive look is something that really appealed to me. And I think it came off really well. It looks very nice to me, and I love the like tri-bar headlights and tail lights and little elements like that. Plus the pony badge on the front looks pretty darn good.
And that's something that we both really agree on because I think it's a beautiful car. Very specifically that grabber blue. I remember seeing that on the platform. Oh yeah. Man, yeah. It's gorgeous. It's really a gorgeous car. And I know this is sort of the hunt for unicorn, but I wanted something that did everything. I wanted an SUV body style. Well, this is in my wildest dreams. I didn't honestly think we could get this car, but that's the next topic. So I wanted something that sort of did everything. And this car really does that. And it looks amazing at the same time. Like it doesn't just look like a sports car. It looks like it's ready for adventure, in my opinion. You?
It doesn't look like a bloated fish either.
No. So then on that note, I have never bought a new car. I'm not super comfortable with the idea of buying a new car. I was always told the moment you drive it off the lot, then it loses whatever chunk of value. So this whole thing made me really uncomfortable. And when Patrick put down the deposit, it was like, we're just going to look at it. We're just looking. But the more that he learned and the more that I learned through him and through my own research, the more I realized this is a wise decision economically to do this now.
And for me, I don't buy new cars often. I'm not somebody that buys a new car every 2 years. And generally what I've done in the past is like I'll buy a car, keep it for 10 years, and then move on to the next one. And it just so happens that my current car is going to reach the 10-year point this month. So we're perfect timing for me to replace my current car. And the way I look at it is like I buy something new. Yes, it's going to lose the value as soon as I drive it off the lot, but it's under warranty, trouble-free for a number of years. And then after that, it's still relatively new, no car payment. I sort of like figure I put that towards maintenance once the warranty is done. And then it gets to the 10-year point and it's time to replace it again. Unfortunately, my current car has taken a lot in maintenance in the past couple of years. So I am ready to get rid of that.
And that's part of why I was scared of the idea of a new expensive car, was new expensive repairs and stuff like that. But learning that EVs kind of have less maintenance required on them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that like I heard people talk about it, like, well, it has less maintenance, and didn't really think too much about it until I started seriously considering it and looking at the total cost of ownership. And it makes a lot of sense. They're probably go through tires quicker than a normal SUV, and that's generally due to the amount of weight that's on any EV because of the batteries. But there's a lot of other things that like just so much that you have to deal with in a regular car with the oil changes, the belts, how many alternators have we gone through in the past few years? In my car, I've had problems with the transmission multiple times, even though it's a manual. My last car was automatic and the transmission just completely went out, and that was like a $4,000 repair. Hopefully we won't have any of those issues to worry about in a EV. So fingers crossed. They do generally have a record for being low maintenance, and the warranty on the Mach-E, the longest part covers like the battery and the EV powertrain. And something like another part, because I just got a estimate to get my brakes done on my current car, something I didn't think about, but because EVs do regenerative braking, which means basically instead of using regular brakes to slow the car down, it's using sort of like a generator. Like you let off the accelerator and the generator kicks in and it's putting power back into the battery, sort of like how hybrids work. So you're not using as much brakes, and there, the estimates are is that like you may not need to do your brakes but once every 10 years or whatever. So that's another bonus. I mean, there's just so many, good things about doing less maintenance. And I was talking to my brother, and like one of the things we were talking about is like 5-10 years down the road when EVs become more popular, I think ICE cars are going to look like these antique beast of machines with oil everywhere and belts and every part spinning. And it's going to be like the old steam engines look to us now, like this antique. And I think ICE engines are going to quickly become that. Like you look under the hood and you're like, oh my God, everything is like interconnected with these rubber belts that could break at any moment or whatever. So hopefully less maintenance is one of the big reasons why we went with the Mach-E, and hopefully it holds true.
And of course, the tax incentives now make it just possible, makes it way more affordable, and it makes it, at least for us, a wise decision right now. Because we're getting, what, 10,000 back?
It ends up being 10,000. So the federal government, we should be able to get the $7,500 federal tax credit from the federal government for the purchase of the Mach-E. Colorado currently has a $2,500 tax incentive. California has a quite a large one as well. So some states it's bigger, some states it's smaller. So you got to check into that. In addition, Xcel Energy, which is our energy provider or electric company, electric and gas, they just announced they are going to launch a program to give rebates for installing installing electric charging stations at home. So I'm sort of like trying to time that. They said they'll have that available by the end of the spring of 2021. So hopefully I can hold off until then and then get a rebate from the energy company for putting in the charging part. So it all like lines up to make it way less expensive than that price tag that you see, as well as the fact that I was looking at my gas bill for 2020, which of course was crazy because of COVID. But in January, I spent close to $200 on gas. And then I sort of translated that to see what I would pay charging for electricity at home. And it would probably be about $40. So $200 down to $40, that's another nice savings.
That's a chunk to the car payment.
Yes.
And it feels like if we're making the switch, which it's time to make the switch to an EV, then having our house and our garage be EV ready, it's like, I think that all houses are going to be like this. It's like your house isn't EV ready. Why would we rent this house? Why would we buy this house, you know?
Yeah, there's even like a push for Airbnb and some of the other vacation rental companies to provide a filter so that you can search and find out who is providing EV charging when they're renting their vacation home. And like hopefully hotels will start including this information as well, and detailed information, so you know how fast it is, if it's a level 2 charging system or if it's Tesla only. So hopefully that type of information becomes more available, and it's hopefully something that we can use like when we decide to sell this place, is to say, yeah, it's the garage is ready with a NEMA 1450 charging outlet.
It looks really nice. It's all shiny and waiting for a car. Actually, that's going to be really fun though, doing Airbnbs and looking for chargers and finding good ones.
Yes.
And ultimately, to add on all of that, never ever having to go back to a gas station ever again.
Although I was the one that 9 times out of 10 was stopping for gas.
This is true. We carpooled to work, and somehow the car always needed gas after he dropped me off. So
it's funny though, like somebody mentioned that, and like never having to go to a gas station, and I always was like, yeah, that's so great. It's great for the environment. But then they're like, no, you don't get it. It's so nice to never have to worry about getting gas, because if you're topping up your gas tank at home every night, you never have to stop for gas, which means when it's 20 degrees and snowing and you're already running late to work because traffic is bad, you don't have to stop for gas. And when you're like, hey, let's run meet some friends for dinner, and you hop in the car, there's no more looking and going, oh crap, I forgot we have to go get gas on the way. It's always going to be full of gas, or energy. So I didn't think about it. I always was thinking of that as like an environmental thing. You don't have to stop and get gas, but it's actually a very, very convenient thing, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Plus the fact that you can precondition the car so that when you leave, it's going to be the exact temperature that you want. So if it knows you leave at 8 o'clock in the morning, the car is going to be nice and toasty for you before you unplug it and pull out of your garage.
No more hopping in at 4 degrees.
Yeah. So it's just another little simple thing, but I think that's going to be a huge convenience that I'm looking forward to.
Well, and I think because we are talking a lot about like what road trips we're going to do, where we're going to drive to, what chargers we're going to try all over across the country, because we're really excited to see that and test it out. But realistically, I've had to remind myself, most people probably are going to be driving around near their home, as are we. And in that case, it's just charging at home.
Yeah, and
plug it in at night, like putting it to bed.
I looked at Google Maps has a great feature, like a timeline, and it shows you like where you drove in the past month or year or whatever. And I looked for 2019. Again, 2020 was just messed up. But in 2019, the longest I drove in one day was 165 miles, which is far within the range of the car that we're getting. So most of the time, we're never going to have to use fast charging. The previous year, yes, we took a very long trip, but we ended up renting a minivan for that. Whether we would do that again or not, stay tuned. We want to do a lot of road trips so we can show you the fast charging. But one of the other things that's a lot of people pointed out might be a drawback is the fact that the non-Tesla charging systems aren't up to speed yet. But the way I look at it is like this is the worst it's going to get. And Electrify America is a great example. They have about 500 charging stations right now, and their goal by the end of this year is to have 300 new ones in place or under development. So by 12 months from now, we'll probably have 800 Electrify America charging stations, not to mention they're not the only one out there. So I think it's going to be very positive in the future about finding charging stations everywhere you go, and won't be that big of a deal, and won't be a hindrance at all.
Yeah, I remember that very vividly. It was we were looking at the PlugShare website and you were like, hey, look at this. All these little dots all over it. And like, this is the worst it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
That's very comforting. It's just going to get better.
Yeah, it's really neat. Just seeing there's press releases, every week or every month, it seems, new charging stations coming online at department stores, and they just announced there's going to be like 5 different charging locations added in Arizona, like in Sedona and Payson, which are sort of a bit off the beaten path. So that's really neat to see that it's not just along the freeways as well. So lots of new stuff coming, and I feel pretty confident in the charging networks that are going to be coming out, going to keep us satisfied no matter where we go. And if not, you'll hear about it on the channel because we're going to put lots of YouTube videos about that.
So then all of this brings in the environmental impact of this. Like, it feels like this is the way that we truly have to go. And I didn't really know the stats. And there's this really good video by Engineering Explained. We'll link it down below. But he works out basically at what point does an EV become carbon neutral? Because at no point will a gas vehicle become carbon neutral. It's always damaging the environment by its existence. But at a certain point, an EV will break even and just be causing no damage by its existence. And we live in Colorado, so a lot of our electricity comes from coal, right? So that's something, unfortunately. So that's something that will have to change for us to be able to benefit the environment the most. But depending on where you live and where your electricity comes from, this change, if you make this change, it could be even more of a big deal. And my understanding is that Colorado is going to be moving towards...
Excel says they're making a push toward renewable energy, and it makes sense for them. But right now, as it stands, a lot is still coming from coal. They just brought online a new wind farm, so that's very nice to hear. And we're, as consumers, we can push them to make it quicker and let them know, let our legislature know that they need to push for Xcel Energy and other energy companies to become more dependent on renewable energy as well, because it doesn't feel good to put clean energy into your car when it's actually coming from coal.
And even in that case, our vehicle will still break even. It just takes a lot longer. And I think per Engineering Explained, it was like 5 years.
Yeah,
for
I think
us.
it was 4 years, 5 years.
4 to 5 years. But in the best case scenario, an EV could break even from 1 to 2 years, which is amazing considering like my car, to be totally honest, my 98 RAV4 is chugging around, and it's been chugging around. And it's going to keep chugging around until I get rid of it and get an EV for our second vehicle, and just causing harm to the environment. But we will at some point break even with our Mach-E.
Yeah, exactly. It's, nothing is perfect, and you can't change the system unless you're willing to, take steps, whether they're small or big. And I think right now it's a smaller step than what we wanted, but at least it's in the right direction. And as Liv said, it's like with a gas-powered car, you're never going to go in the right direction. You're always going backwards, basically. So.
And we know that this is, at this time, a great privilege and a great luxury to be able to afford a car like this. But it's been really interesting learning more about the industry and seeing that there are efforts to create more low-cost EVs, second-hand EVs, and that's something that we both are really interested in learning about too.
So that's about it. As you can see, it's sort of like we've thought through the process. The next step is we actually need to get in the car and drive it, which will come in about 10 days. We're going to have a Mach-E for 2 days, so we're going to give it a test and just drive it and see if our stuff fits in it. And then hopefully within 21 days, we're going to have our Mach-E. So there should be lots of exciting stuff coming. We're very excited. We have a Mach-E t-shirts, we have the Mach-E channel, but hopefully there's no red flag. Like if we get in it and it just doesn't suit us, then we're gonna have to pull the plug on this. As much as I love having the channel and making these videos, I'm not gonna spend $50,000 on a car if it doesn't fit us. I'm 99% confident that we're gonna be good to go, but stay tuned and you'll find out our thoughts next week when we have the Mach-E and get to give it a go.
And my main concern is whether it will fit my bike and the clearance, to be honest.
Yeah, it is low to the ground.
Yeah, and I'm used to a very high, bouncy car, so the test Mach-E is gonna be put through the ringer, maybe.
Sounds good, I think.
Yeah, and we're gonna be honest.
We're gonna be honest because it's our money.
Yeah.
We're not sponsored by Ford.
Not sponsored.
Although, click on our email link.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. So that's it. Stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you'll see all the details when we do get to test Mach-E.
So on that note, we will have a Mach-E in our hands in How
10
many
days.
10 days.
9 days.
9 days. So if you have any questions at all, put them down below because we're intrigued too. So
Yeah. Let us know if you have any lingering questions. I know pretty much everything's been covered, but we're going to cover even more. We're going to try to get some golf clubs and throw them in the back. And
we're putting a
recumbent
recumbent trike in there. So it's like the biggest thing I can think of at this time.
Yeah. So we're going to try all that stuff. If you have any other questions, let us know. I know people want us to test the sound system, which would be our pleasure to do.
Should Patrick do carpool karaoke in the Mach-E? And what should he sing? Alan Jackson? No?
No.
Macklemore?
This is why, no.
Macklemore?
Your chair head. Just... So I think that's all for us. I think we're going to go now before she keeps cracking up. If you like this video, if you think she should be in more videos, give the video a like. Make sure you hit subscribe. Or just unsubscribe and just forget about us completely. Whatever.
No. Either way, have a lovely day. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Have an electric day. Wait, did you like swing the chair each time?
No.
Have a zingy day. Have a great day. Have an unbridled day. Have a whisper day. Have an untamed day. Nay.
She hasn't been drinking. It's just like this.
Bye.